It was a bright Saturday afternoon when Harold, the manager of a busy downtown clothing store, stood behind the counter with his usual stern look.
HEA!
The store was buzzing
Stop
with
right
customers,
there.
teenagers
Don't you dare
laughing,
walk away from
mothers
me.
shopping, and the sound of hangers sliding along the racks.
Look at this craftsmanship.
Harold prided
This jacket
himself on
isn't just
being
clothing,
in control.
It's a statement. It
He
fits
believed
you
he could
perfectly,
read people,
and the quality
spot
is
a thief,
unmatched.
detect a liar, sense trouble before it happened. But that belief was about to be shattered. At around 2 p.m., a tall black man in his mid-30s walked into the store. He wore simple jeans, a faded gray hoodie, and carried an old backpack. His name was Marcus Reed. He smiled politely at the cashier and began browsing through the men's jackets. Harold noticed him almost immediately. He narrowed his eyes, another one pretending to shop. Harold thought, let's see what he's up to. For the next 10 minutes, Marcus quietly looked at the clothes, checking price tags and occasionally glancing at his phone. He didn't bother anyone. But in Harold's mind, every move looked suspicious. When Marcus picked up a leather jacket and walked toward the fitting room, Harold followed him silently. After a few minutes, Marcus stepped out, holding the jacket in his hands, and placed it carefully back on the rack. He then walked toward the counter, as if ready to leave. "Hey!" Harold shouted across the store. "Stop right there!" Everyone froze. The music from the speakers continued softly, but all eyes turned toward Marcus. Marcus blinked, surprised. "Excuse me." Harold marched over, his face red with anger. "Empty your bag." "Right now," Marcus frowned. "I beg your pardon?" "You heard me!" Harold barked. "You think I didn't see you shove that jacket in your backpack?" Marcus looked genuinely confused. "Sir, I didn't take anything." "You can check." Before Marcus could finish, Harold stepped forward and slapped him across the face. A gasp rippled through the store. The sound of the slap echoed between the walls. Marcus staggered back, holding his cheek, his eyes wide in disbelief. "What is wrong with you?" he said quietly, his voice trembling. Not from fear, but from shock. "You people think you can steal and walk away." "Not in my store," Harold spat. "Security, call the police." The cashier stood frozen, her hands trembling over the phone. Marcus took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Sir, I didn't take anything. But if you really think I did, check the bag yourself." Harold snatched the backpack from Marcus's hands and ripped it open in front of everyone. Inside were only a few books, a water bottle, and a laptop. Nothing else. The room went completely silent. Harold's face turned pale. "Where's the jacket?" he muttered, looking around in confusion. Marcus looked him straight in the eye. "I put it back on the rack, exactly where I found it. You can check the cameras." A young woman from the staff nervously pointed to the security monitor. "Sir, the footage. It shows him putting the jacket back." "He didn't take anything," Harold froze. His throat went dry. That's not possible." Marcus rubbed his cheek gently. His voice was low but firm. "You hit me before you even knew the truth." For a long moment, no one said a word. Customers stared at Harold with disgust. One woman muttered, "You should be ashamed." Another customer began recording the scene on her phone. Marcus turned to leave. But at that moment, the door opened, and in walked Mr. Carter, the regional director of the entire store chain. He saw Marcus and immediately smiled. "Ah, Marcus, you're already here. I was coming to introduce you." Harold looked confused. "Introduce him?" "Yes," Mr. Carter said cheerfully. "Marcus Reed, our new district operations inspector. He's been assigned by headquarters to evaluate store management and customer service. This store was first on his list. You could hear a pin drop." Harold's heart sank. "Inspector?" he whispered. Marcus nodded slowly. "That's right. I came in today undercover to see how customers are treated." Mr. Carter looked around, sensing the tension. "What's going on here?" Before Harold could speak, one of the staff members blurted out, "Sir, Mr. Harold accused Mr. Reed of stealing and—" "Hit him!" Mr. Carter's expression hardened instantly. He turned to Harold. "You did what?" "I thought he was stealing," Harold stammered. He looked suspicious. "Suspicious?" Carter's voice was sharp. "You assaulted an innocent customer, an inspector no less, based on nothing but your prejudice?" Harold's knees almost gave out. "Sir, I didn't mean—" Marcus raised a hand calmly. "Mr. Carter, please. It's fine. I'm not pressing charges." He looked at Harold. But I hope you learned something today." Then, without another word, Marcus walked out of the store. That night, Harold sat alone in his office. The store was empty, the lights dim. His hands trembled as he replayed the footage over and over. The slap, the shock, the silence. Every time he saw Marcus's face, his stomach twisted with guilt. He had always thought of himself as fair. He had always believed he treated people equally, but that single moment proved otherwise. The next morning, Harold called Marcus's office and asked for a meeting. When Marcus arrived, Harold stood up immediately. "Mr. Reed, I want to apologize. There's no excuse for what I did. I was wrong, terribly wrong." Marcus nodded slowly. "I appreciate the apology, Mr. Harold, but the damage is done. You can't undo that moment, or how it made me feel." Harold swallowed hard. "I understand. I let my bias guide me instead of reason. I judged you without knowing a thing about you." Marcus looked at him quietly for a few seconds, then said, "The real test of a person's character isn't how they treat those above them, but how they treat those they think are beneath them." Harold lowered his head. "I'll remember that." Weeks later, the store had changed. There were new posters on the wall about equality, respect, and fair treatment. The staff had undergone training. Harold was still there, but humbler, quieter, and more patient. One afternoon, Marcus visited again, not as an inspector, but as a customer. He picked up a shirt and smiled at the same cashier, who greeted him warmly. Harold approached cautiously. "Mr. Reed," he said, extending his hand, "it's good to see you again." Marcus shook it. "You've made some changes here." Harold nodded. "I had to. I learned that one act of anger can destroy years of reputation, but one act of humility can start to rebuild it." Marcus smiled faintly. "That's true." As Marcus left the store, Harold watched him go. Not with suspicion this time, but with respect. Moral of the story: never judge someone by their appearance or assumptions. Prejudice can blind even the most experienced person. The truth has a way of revealing itself, and when it does, regret often comes too late.